Hello, hello, hello. We are back at it again with TPP. I am your host of the Petty Politic. The Petty Politic. So we begin this story. You guys saw the moniker. You guys saw the thumbnail, right? So this is developing as we speak. This whole story. And I'm gonna come to it from a different angle. Most people think this story began on Horn Island, but I don't think it began there. I think it began in a different place.
He either drowned by himself or drowned around people. Y'all understand, there is no third option here. This is a binary. If no one was there, if he died alone, it means he was left on that island with no cell service, no cell phone, no way to get back, no one coming to look for him. Abandoned. And if someone was there, that person has obviously not come forward. Maybe they lawyered up. That's what I would do if I saw someone die. You're still allowed to believe every part of the official story and still ask the most important question, which is how could a kid, 18 years old, be left on an island for long enough by himself without anyone noticing until he drowned? Don't let them gaslight you.
See, I think this story started years ago, right? I think it began when Nolan Wells, before he stepped on that boat, when he met these people. I think it began the way his parents raised him. By every public account, right? Nolan's father believed in judging people by the character rather than by the color of their skin. He believed good people come in every race. And he raised his son to believe that same thing. That belief shaped the decisions that family made. They trusted the young men Nolan was spending time with. They trusted that those boys would look out for one another. They trusted that if something went wrong, everyone would do everything possible to make sure Nolan came home safely. That trust is the foundation of this entire story. Every chapter that follows is about what happened after that trust began to disappear. Okay? Most parents eventually reach a moment when they have to let go of their child, let their child grow up. You can't follow your child everywhere. You can't stand beside them every minute of the day. At some point, you have to trust the people they choose to spend time with. You trust that their friends will make good decisions. You trust that if something went wrong, that they will look out for one another, right? Most of all, you trust that your child who left the house will come back through the front door. That is the unwritten agreement every parent makes when they allow their child or their daughter, son, whatever, to spend the day with their friends. That's the unwritten agreement. Hold on.
Wells' autopsy results are likely in. Attorney Ben Crump said that they would be in on noon at 12 o'clock, but then there were flight delays, and so that stalled it. Mississippi did the initial autopsy. Mississippi is likely waiting on the results of Washington, D.C., and maybe even vice versa, because they should technically align. Now, if there was foul play, would Washington, D.C. be quick to share that information? I don't know. I'm no expert. What I do know is that we're not privy to any of the information. It's for the family, and what we can do is pray for the Wells family. My suspicion, though, is just that somebody's results are in. Nolan Wells autopsy.
Of course, the results are in. They're just trying to figure out how they're going to present their case, because it's either one way or the other. It's a binary decision. Either the child lost his life by drowning, or the child didn't lose his life by drowning. Okay? By all public accounts, Noel's parents believed they had raised their son to judge people by the content of the character, color of the skin. Okay? They thought that they had the same loyalty, and the loyalty would be returned. They thought he would get treated with the same loyalty and concern that they taught him to have for his friends. Whether those friendships had existed for years or had grown more recently, the expectation was exactly the same. Friends watch out for friends. But this case raises a broader question that every parent should ask themselves. How well do we really know the people our children trust? See, here's my thing, and this is the problem I got. Whenever those parents speak, I learn more and more about what's going on. I thought these kids had been raised together, or they had been friends for a long time. I thought they went to school together, raised together, went to school, lived in the same neighborhood. That's what I thought. Why is it that every time those parents speak, it's like they don't know these other kids' parents? Like they don't know those other kids' family? Why is it that it's like every time they speak, they don't know these kids, or these kids don't know them? Why is that when y'all keep saying they were raised around each other and they knew each other? Because if I know my kids' family, friends, and they were raised around and they knew each other from kindergarten, I would have been at least invited over to their house once or twice for dinner or for lunch or brunch or ice cream or a party. They make it seem as though they don't know any of these boys' family. The Nolan's parents act like they don't know none of them people. So that raises a broader question to me. How well do you know these kids? Children often build friendships in places parents never see. I get that. They meet through school, sports, work, social circles, all that good stuff. We may know a few names. We may have seen a few faces. Sometimes those parents themselves have never developed relationships with one another, and I get that. But these have been kids that have been friends since they were 5 years old, 6 years old, according to news report. That don't mean anything improper happened. It does mean parents are often placing enormous trust in people they barely know because they trust their children, which is probably what happened here. That's a very sobering thought. When Nolan left for Horn Island, his parents had every reason to believe he was spending a holiday with people who would bring him home safely. Instead, the boat returned without him. Now, the questions begin. Public reporting indicates that leaving phones and keys on the boat was common for Horn Island. Okay, if that was the custom, then Nolan's phone remaining on the boat standing alone does not tell us what happened. That fact by itself is not the story. The story begins after the boat returned, not before. The story begins after the boat returned, because I have this question and it keeps nagging me. If I'm Nolan's friend and Nolan said, hey, I'm going to stay on the island with this girl and I'll be back later on. If I find myself without Nolan's keys and he didn't show up by 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, I probably would have went over to his mom's and dad's house and dropped the keys and the wallet and all of that off and tell them, hey, here's Nolan's stuff. He said he was going to be back at 8 o'clock. He ain't back. It's 11 o'clock or blah, blah, blah. Here's his stuff. Just in case, he make it home and he want his phone and all that stuff. It's here at the house with you all. I would have did that. Why didn't those kids do that? Why didn't they get up first thing and check to see if Nolan was at home? Why didn't they wake up and go and check on Nolan in the morning? The story begins after the boat returned. According to According to publicity or public records, the boat left Horn Island during the late afternoon, eventually made its way back to the mainland. And a missing persons report was later made that night. Those are important facts because investigators use timelines to understand who, what, when, where, and why. For Nolan's family, those hours became the beginning of a lifetime of questions. When did everyone realize Nolan had not returned? What conversations took place after the boat reached shore? How did everybody understand the situation as it unfolded? My understanding is that girl Katie said that Nolan didn't spend time with her. He said he was going back to the boat with his boys. According to his boys, he was going to spend time with Katie. Katie has already come out publicly and said, nah. He said he was going back to the boat with y'all. So right there, we have a contradiction in what was said and what was done and Noah's timeline. Okay. These are the kind of questions investigators have to ask because answering them helps to reconstruct the sequence of events. They are not accusations. They are part of understanding what happened. What cannot be disputed is this. A family entrusted their son to a group of young men for a holiday outing. Their son did not come home. Whatever the final investigation ultimately concludes about how Nolan died, that first layer of trust had already been broken. From that moment forward, Nolan's parents were no longer relying on assumptions. They were searching for those answers. So when Nolan Wells didn't come home, his family's trust shifted from the young men who were with him, who were supposed to provide friendship to him, to the institutions responsible for finding the answers. That is what every family expects. When a tragedy strikes, you expect law enforcement to take control of the scene, preserve the evidence, interview every witness, and follow every lead wherever it goes. You expect investigators to be guided by facts rather than assumptions. And you expect the process to be thorough, even thorough enough that no question is left unanswered. That expectation is not unreasonable. It is the minimum that a family deserves. Let me play this clip.
Throughout that day, and then we had fixed-wing aircraft on standby. The Coast Guard was already out there with the Sheriff's Department doing their searches with some rotary wing aircraft. Searched that day into the night. Then that Monday morning at daylight, we had additional surface vessels and fixed-wing aircraft that were in the air, ultimately, which, he was found that morning.
Tell us, Josh, a little bit about the area and the island. What is it like? Is it normally crowded?
Absolutely crowded. A lot. July 4th weekend, nice, pretty weather. The water was calm. That allowed a lot of vessels to be out there. Hundreds of vessels, hundreds and hundreds of people. So it's hard for me to believe, in my honest opinion, that nobody saw anything. Again, we're not law enforcement. We're just a volunteer group, but we are working very closely with law enforcement as well as the family to provide any information that searched throughout that day.
So he said it was kind of difficult for them not to have seen something. People not to have seen something. Very early on in this investigation, the public heard statements from that Jackson County Sheriff Department indicating that investigators did not initially suspect foul play, while also explaining that the investigation remained active and important forensic work needed to be done, including the state's autopsy, which was still pending. So those two messages landed very differently depending on who was listening. Now, when I heard him say that, I was like, okay, it was very obvious that he drowned. It was very obvious he didn't have any trauma to the body. It was very obvious that he just floated up on land. Now, let's take all of that and break it down. He was found on land, dry, not waterlogged, not full of water. Excuse me. He was found where investigators had already looked for him. Searchers had already looked for him in that particular spot. Okay. They had looked all over that island the day before and couldn't find that young man. Maybe tides washed him up on the shore. Maybe they didn't. We don't know. You don't know. But it's mighty funny that nobody saw that young man walk off and drown. And even there were people on the island who spent the night on the island. There were people on the island who spent the night on the island. And I'm assuming they're having conversation with these people to find out if they saw anything while they were on the island. Okay. And even if those people saw something, would you, if I saw somebody, wouldn't you, your eye scan for that particular person when you left in the morning? Wouldn't you try to figure out if anybody was there? Where did that person go? Who was this person if we saw this person? Nobody saw nothing. That absolutely makes no sense. So some people heard a routine preliminary assessment when that investigator was talking. They viewed it as an investigator sharing what they knew at the moment while continuing to gather evidence. But how can you come out and say it looks like an accidental drowning when you don't have any forensic test? You don't have anything from the coroner. There was no independent, at this particular point, there's no independent autopsy. Nolan's family, however, viewed those early statements through a very different lens. They were not simply listening to the words spoken at a press conference. They were listening through generations of lived experience. I heard, oh, we finna wrap this up so we can make sure these little white boys don't get arrested. That's what I heard. When I heard that sheriff get on TV and say what he said, that's what I heard in the back of my mind. He trying to cover up for these little white boys. That's what I heard. And I told y'all I have prejudice and I have bigotry just like everybody else. But that's what I heard. That wasn't what he said, but that's what I heard, right? Nolan's family were listening to generations of lived experience. For many Black families in Mississippi and throughout the Deep South, history has shaped how official assurances are received. Cases from the past, whether resolved or unresolved, have left many believing that justice has not always worked for Black people like it has worked for white people, and transparency has never been forthcoming when it came to a Black body. History does not determine the outcome of this investigation. History does influence whether people immediately trust it or not. And I didn't trust it the minute I heard it either. That distinction is important. When confidence is already fragile, words matter. Timing matters. Public messaging matters. That sheriff came out there too damn early to be saying there wasn't nothing. It could be an accidental death. Why you trying to hasten this investigation along? Why you trying to push a narrative onto the people so we won't be looking over in the corner where they really got the knife and the blade? Why you trying to rush a judgment? As the investigation continues, investigators were still requesting photographs, videos, witnesses. You can't tell me that all them damn people that we saw on that island, them folk don't have no video. Most of them folk don't have no video. You can't tell me them folk don't have no video. All them folk that was in that island, all in that video where Nolan's friend was having the argument about his phone, because that's Nolan's friend having that argument on that video. Nolan's friend was having an argument about his phone. All them folk in the water. You mean to tell me not now none of them have videos? Not now one of them other people got videos? There was plenty of people in the boats. So why they ain't got no video? Where's the video? Where's the other video? Why was that one video released? Why ain't no other videos released that show what happened that day on that island? That captures the picture of Nolan. Why ain't none of them open to the public? We can't see none of that. Okay. But at the same time, the family continues asking questions. Like, I have many questions as it keeps going. They believe they had not yet been answered, the questions that they had. Those two realities existed together. So investigators said the investigation was continuing, even though he tried to come out there and try to gaslight our ass about accidental drowning. And the family believed there was still much they did not know about that day. Then something changed. Something, I don't know what changed. As more information became public, the sheriff's public comments emphasized that the investigators were still reviewing substantial amounts of evidence. So the investigator or the court, what is it? I blanked out on who it's at. The sheriff. Eventually, the sheriff started backing away from that accidental death. If you notice, he started backing away from the accidental death and started asking for video recordings, Snapchats. He was asking for all of those things. Okay? He was asking for all of those things. He wanted witnesses, information from the witnesses, people who were on the island, people who stayed on the island. At the same time, the family continued asking questions they believed had not yet been answered for them. These two realities existed together. Investigators said the investigation was continuing and the family believed there was still much they hadn't even gotten a hold of. People hadn't talked to them. People hadn't reached out to them. Why wasn't none of these people reaching out to the family? As more information became public, we needed more information. We were awaiting the autopsy. We still awaiting the autopsy. I believe they got the autopsy. The state got the autopsy. Okay. Why ain't y'all released the autopsy? If the autopsy says these boys are innocent and he died by accident, why ain't they released it and said, look, these are our findings. He accidentally drowned. There's no foul play. Why ain't y'all released the autopsy? Because the state got theirs. They ordered their autopsy on the 6th. Started doing it on the 6th or even the 7th. And it's the 15th. So that's been a week. That's been almost 10 days. Okay. And the state investigator, autopsy people, Colin Kaepernick, or said he would pay for an independent investigator because everybody was working towards the same goal, determining what happened to Nolan. That shift is worth noticing, okay? It reflects an investigation that was still developing rather than the one that had reached its final conclusion, like that damn sheriff decided that it was an accidental drowning. He should be, get your ass out in front of the camera because you don't know how to talk. For Nolan's family, though, that early loss of confidence had already taken place. That sheriff did it. Once trust begins to erode, every unanswered question feels heavier and more deadly. Every delay becomes more difficult to understand. Every public statement is examined more closely than the one before it. That does not mean investigators have reached the wrong conclusion. It does explain why the family decided they could not rely on one investigation alone. They wanted additional eyes on the investigation. They wanted independent experts. They wanted confidence that every lead would be followed before anybody reached a conclusion. For them, trust was no longer enough. They wanted verification. They needed verification. Okay. Hold on.
Yeah, and black people would have never left little Timmy on that island by himself, right? We would have never left Billy behind. Argument, no argument, girl, no girl, we would have never left them behind. And the audacity of it all to come back, call at y'all got back quote unquote 4 or 5 o'clock. Y'all call at 11 p.m. to tell me my kid didn't come back with you. But y'all got his phone, y'all got his car, and y'all don't want to raise up off that stuff. What you mean you don't know where his keys are? What do you mean you don't want to hand over his phone? And you can see that black and white people are just culturally different because None of that stuff explains why y'all came back -1. That would have had to be turned into a -4. Because 5, all y'all, light it up. We don't do that. We don't do that. We're not leaving that island. We're all coming back. And then people are like, well, he left with a girl. Oh, he could have had an accident, slipped. Oh, it could have been use of substance and alcohol and all that. Okay, doesn't explain why they left him, quote unquote, left him. None of that explains why they left him. And yes, that's absolutely putting somebody's life in danger, because you know there is no way on or off that island other than a boat that he came on. And you have his stuff.
Right. You have his stuff. You have his stuff. By the time Nolan's family reached this point of the trust breaking down, they had made a decision that changed the course of this case. They were no longer willing to rely on a single investigation or a single institution. Mississippi has a history. I'm sorry, it does. They decided to expand the circle of people responsible for helping them find answers. That decision is one of the most misunderstood parts of this whole total conversation. The moment Ben Crump's name was announced, critics immediately shifted the conversation. Instead of asking what happened to Nolan Wells, they began asking why Ben Crump is involved. Why y'all call Ben Crump? They called him a race hustler. They accused him of turning a family tragedy into a political event. They questioned his motives before they even considered the family. I think those critics are asking the wrong fucking question. The better question is, why did Nolan's parents believe they needed Ben Crump to show up? Ben Crump has spent much of his career representing families who believed they needed an independent legal advocate in high-profile civil rights cases. Whether people agree with that man or not politically is besides the damn point. Families often seek him out because they believe his involvement will bring additional legal resources, experienced investigators, and sustain public attention to their case. That's exactly why Ben Crump is hired. Nolan's family made that choice because they wanted another set of eyes to examine every piece of evidence. They wanted experienced professionals asking difficult questions. They wanted confidence that no important lead would be overlooked when it came to their son. But the family didn't stop there. They also stood beside Al Sharpton, Reverend Al Sharpton, and the National Action Network. Again, people immediately focused on Al Sharpton instead of asking why the family wanted him to stand beside them. For decades, Al Sharpton has used his platform to bring national attention to cases involving families who believe they're still searching for answers. His role has never been to conduct forensic investigations or determine guilt. His role is different. He keeps cases in the public eye. That is why Al Sharpton is there. So when I hear a goofy talking about why y'all go get Al Sharpton will keep this shit in the news. Al Sharpton will keep his foot on their neck. Al Sharpton will make sure that they investigate every stone and turn up every lead that needs to be turned up. That's what Al Sharpton will do. Ben Crump's job is to make sure the legal proceedings go the way they're supposed to go for a family. And I don't give a damn whether y'all keep saying, well, he's just a race hustler, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a damn. Don't nobody say jack shit about white folks that represent racist, white folks that represent people who done shot up houses and mosque and school. Y'all don't say shit about them being white. So shut your ass up about Ben Crump when Ben Crump come to help represent a family who wants answers. Okay. Al Sharpton brings cameras and reporters. They both bring cameras and reporters to a situation that may not get cameras and reporters. And it brings public attention to investigators that families fear could make shit disappear. Whether somebody agrees with his methods or not, Ben Crump's methods or not, that is the role Nolan's family asked him to play. Then look at everything else they did. They did not rely solely on the state's medical examiner. They arranged for an independent autopsy by an outside forensic pathologist, Colin Kaepernick. Shout out to Colin Kaepernick with his fine ass. He is the one who's paying for that. They accepted assistance that helped make that exam possible from Colin Kaepernick and Tyler Perry. They welcome national media coverage. They encourage additional witnesses to come forward. We ain't gonna let you get away with nothing if there's something to not get away with, to get away with. We ain't letting you get away with it. Because you know what brought it on? That fucking sheriff. That sheriff brought his ass out there talking about, it looked like he just drowned. No, motherfucker, you ain't no pathologist. So you don't know why he drowned. So why you got your ass out there talking about it was accidental drowning? You trying to cover for them white boys. That's according to people, according to the rumor, according to what people saying. It's not what I'm saying, it's what people are saying. You bring your ass out here and try to give cover to these white boys. These white boys lawyered up. These white boys wipe their social media. Why the hell they doing all that? They're supposed to be such good friends to Nolan. Think about all those decisions that are made in common. None of these things answer the question of how Nolan died. Every one of them answers a different question. How do we make sure every possible question gets asked? That is what Ben Crump is there for. He is the legal representative for them to make sure that every question is answered and asked and then answered for that family. That's why Ben Crump is there. Most of y'all don't even know why his role is there. All you see is somebody trying to save black and brown bodies. You don't understand why he's there. If you don't understand why he's there, then shut your ass up and sit down and listen. He's there to facilitate and make sure the family gets the representation, make sure the family hears everything they need to hear about their child. If their child drowned accidentally, he's there to make sure that they understand all of the exams, all of the tests, all of the conclusions, all of the ways that they came up with the fact that it was an accidental drowning. He's there to facilitate that. He ain't there just to say, oh, they guilty. They guilty. That's not why he's there. His job is to make sure that every question, every T is crossed and every I is dotted. That's his point. They did not build a national team because they claimed to know all the answers. They built a national team like Reverend Al Sharpton and Ben Crump because they believed the search for those answers deserved every available resource. How are you going to come back from an island without your friend, the person that you went to? It was 3 of y'all got on that boat. 4 of y'all got on that boat, or maybe 5. I'm not sure. 5 of y'all got on that boat and 4 of y'all came back and y'all don't know what happened. Now one of y'all know what happened. Every one of y'all say, we don't know what happened. He's our best friend. He's one of our best friends. I don't know what happened. How the fuck you going to come back and say that? I'm not saying you did anything. What I am saying is you're lying about what you do and don't know. They deserve it. Ben Crump became part of the effort to help the family. Al Sharpton became another part. Independent forensic expert that Colin Kaepernick hired became the other. National media became another. Each one of these things represented another layer of accountability that Mississippi had to come up with. Mississippi has been known to hide the death and murder of black and brown bodies. Each one of those people, Ben Crump, Al Sharpton, medical examiner, is another layer of accountability, like I said, another perspective and another opportunity to ensure that no important question is ignored. Whether the final investigation confirms an accidental drowning or points investigators in another direction, Nolan's parents have made one thing unmistakably clear. They do not want assumptions. They do not want shortcuts. They do not want conclusions reached before every piece of evidence has been carefully examined. They want to know that years from now, they will never have to wonder whether one more witness should have been interviewed. One more phone should have been examined. One more question should have been asked. That's wild. By this point, Nolan's family had reached a place no family ever wants to reach when they hire somebody like Al Sharpton and Ben Crump. They no longer believed that trust by itself was enough to give to Mississippi. That don't mean they knew what happened to Nolan. It means they believed that every important fact had to be independently verified before they can accept any conclusion that anybody came and told them. There's an important difference between trust and verification. Trust says, I believe the process will work. Verification says, show me how the process worked. That is where this case stands today. The family is no longer waiting for somebody else to answer questions. They are participating in the search for those answers. They sought an independent autopsy. They assembled their own investigative team. That's what Ben Crump did. He assembled an investigative team. They agreed to a joint inspection of Nolan's cell phone with experts from both sides. They've encouraged witnesses to come forward and have publicly stated that they want every lead examined before anybody reaches a final conclusion. That approach tells us something important. This family is not asking the public to convict anyone. They're asking that nothing be overlooked. As the investigation has continued, a number of questions have remained part of the public discourse. Investigators have continued reviewing photos, videos, witness statements, and forensic evidence. And I can't say it enough. All of them damn people in the water, and not nail one of y'all had no videotape. Besides the one where that fight happened. Not nail one of y'all. The family has continued to ask for transparency. At the same time, the sheriff has publicly stated that investigators are still reviewing the evidence and awaiting forensic results. I know they got that both of them. The Colin Kaepernick investigation, independent autopsy, and the state's independent autopsy. They done got those autopsies back. They done got their autopsies back. See, to me, I think this is what's going to happen. I think somebody's going to be, I don't know whether accused or somebody going to be, there's going to be an accusation. There's going to be something that says somebody took the life of this young man. I believe that's what they're waiting for, so they can have double barrels to shoot at who they need the people they need to shoot at. That's what I believe. Because if this was a simple drowning, it just would have been a simple drowning. Maybe it is. Today, Ben Crump and the family met with the district attorney. Why would you need to be meeting with a district attorney if all it was a simple drowning? This is why we have to have the public confidence. When people have confidence in an investigation, they generally be willing to wait for evidence to speak. We would be, if this was a simple drowning and we just thought it was a simple drowning, we wouldn't be so invested in all this. When confidence weakens, which it has in the public arena, every unanswered question becomes more significant. Every delay receives a greater scrutiny. Every new piece of information is examined more closely. That does not automatically mean the investigation is flawed. It does explain why the public conversation becomes more intense. This case illustrates that reality. Some people believe the investigation is proceeding exactly as it should. Others believe the family was right to seek additional oversight and independent review. Those are different conclusions, but they arise from the same circumstance. A family is searching for the certainty after the loss of their child. Ultimately, this investigation will not be judged by speculation. It will be judged by the autopsy findings, forensic analysis, witness interviews, digital evidence, the investigative work. Those are the things that will determine what happened to Nolan Wells. Until then, the family's decision to seek independent verification reflects a principle that extends beyond a single case. When the stakes are this high, many families believe the one investigation to be thorough enough to withstand every reasonable question. And if they believe additional expertise or additional scrutiny will help achieve that goal, they will seek it. That is not an admission that they know the outcome. It is not an expression of how deeply they want confidence in whatever the outcome ultimately proves to be. Okay? This story was never about Ben Crump or Al Sharpton. When this story first broke, most people wanted to know only one thing: how did he die? The question remains important, and ultimately the evidence, not speculation, must answer it. But over the course of this investigation, another question emerged. Why did Nolan's family lose confidence in Mississippi? The Mississippi investigation? That question explains almost every decision they have made. They trusted the young men Nolan spent the holiday with because they believed those friendships would keep him safe. When Nolan didn't come home, they trusted the local authorities to investigate thoroughly and explain what happened. When that confidence weakened, and I believe the confidence weakened when that sheriff came out there and decided he was going to try to gaslight our ass about how Nolan died. He came out there and said, it looks like a simple drowning to me, an accidental drowning to me. Oh, no, motherfucker, no. We ain't finna take your word for it. Let's get some people up in here. We need to get some real people up in here who are going to tell us the truth. They sought independent autopsy. Ben Crump, Al Sharpton, media attention. Colin Kaepernick stepped up. Tyler Perry stepped up. And I'm sure other ones have stepped up too. They expanded that number of people asking questions because they believe their son deserved nothing less than a complete search for the truth. That does not tell us how Nolan died. It tells us how determined his parents are to make sure every possible question is answered. There's an important lesson in that for every parent watching tonight. We spend years and years teaching our kids how to make good decisions. We teach them to be respectful. We teach them to work hard. We teach them to judge people by their character. We teach them to trust. But life also teaches another fucking lesson. Trust is precious. Once it's broken, it's incredibly difficult to restore. Whether this investigation ultimately concludes that Nolan's death was a tragic accident or whether it uncovers something more, the standard should remain exactly the same. The investigation should be thorough. Evidence should be complete. Conclusion should be transparent. Every witness should be questioned, and the family should never have to spend the rest of their lives wondering whether somebody stopped looking too soon. That is not asking for special treatment. That's asking for the kind of investigation every family would want if this was their son. People have spent days arguing about Ben Crump. Shut your ass up about Ben Crump. Ben Crump is there to facilitate and make sure every question is answered, every I is dotted, every T is crossed. He is there to facilitate all of this investigation, a team of forensic experts, all of these people to help them uncover the truth. That is what he is there for. Okay. Everybody's arguing about Al Sharpton and Ben. I believe those arguments missed the larger point. Those men did not become the story. They became part of the family's response to a loss of confidence in Mississippi justice. The real story has always been Nolan Wells, an 18-year-old boy who left home to celebrate the 4th of July and never returned. His parents are asking for answers. Investigators say they're continuing their work. The public is waiting for the evidence. Until that work is complete, everybody should allow the facts, not rumors, assumptions, or social media determine what happened. Because in the end, the truth is not something to be hoped for. It's something that must be found. Okay? Now, I have questions too. I said them throughout this presentation. Why didn't those kids take that boy's phone and his car keys home to his mom and dad when they came from the boat? Why is it that Katie said that she didn't stay with Nolan? Nolan didn't stay with her. Nolan said he was going home with his boys. Why is she contradicting what his boys said? Nolan's buddy, black best friend, his best friend, whoever he was, he made sure that when he talked to the media, he didn't say those people were guilty or not guilty. He didn't say anything about them. He just spoke about Nolan. Why did that sheriff come out and say it looks like an accidental death, and he hadn't even had any evidence or did any interviews or conducted any video surveillance or worried about the Snapchat or anything else? Why was Nolan's Snapchat erased of that day? Why was all of his Snapchat from that day erased? If Nolan decided he was going to stay on that island, and there were people who slept at that island, who spent the night over in that island when they wasn't supposed to, why is it that Nolan or they didn't see Nolan? Why didn't nobody see Nolan after 3 o'clock? Okay. Why is it that they're not releasing the pathology, the report from the autopsy? Why ain't they releasing the one that should be done by now? The one from the state of Mississippi. Why ain't they released it? Ben Crump ain't releasing theirs until the state is releasing theirs, because they want to hear what the state got to say. The Colin Kaepernick report should back up what the state says. If Colin Kaepernick's report don't back up what the state says, there's some funny shit going on. They should align. They should be right in line with each other. If Nolan don't have water in his lungs, that means he died before he got into the water. And if he died before he got into the water, somebody would have seen him before he got into the water, and they would have known that he was dying. So these are questions that I have for whatever. As the days and weeks go on, hopefully we get some of these things answered by this Friday. Who knows? Okay, we don't know. We don't know the story at all. I have always been of the opinion he could have overdosed, and they found him overdosed, and they were scared that he overdosed, so they left him on the island. That could have happened. He got into a fight with somebody, and they unalived him in the water. Any number of things that could have happened to Nolan on that island. Okay, any number, and nothing malicious could have happened. Nothing could have happened to him. He could have just fell into the water, and the tide took him away, and he couldn't swim. He was an excellent swimmer. He was an expert. He was in tip-top physical shape. And then I'd have to wonder how somebody who was in tip-top shape and at the age of 18 and who was an excellent swimmer, how did that person end up being overcome by water? I would have to ask that question. There's many questions that I have about this. Many questions. But a lot of the answers will come from the toxicology, from the autopsy report, and we just got to wait for the autopsy report. Let me read some of these people, and let me read some of the things in the chat. Okay, so I'm willing to wait for the things in the chat. Okay, hello, people in the chat. Hello. I'm with you. It's better to hold prejudice against another human being who don't belong to my race. I never knew my grandfather back in the 90s was speaking the truth. Yeah, if I'm one of the white boys died in Nolan's group instead of him, would you? If of course. What does that mean? I don't understand what the hell you're talking about. Just because you're white doesn't mean I don't care about how you died. Y'all sound goofy. Some of y'all sound real goofy. He got drunk and drowned. It's that simple. Sure, maybe that is it. Maybe it is that simple. That's what we're hoping. We're hoping that he just drowned. No, I'm not hoping that. I'm hoping they find the truth. Maybe he did. Maybe he got drunk and drowned. Who knows? That's crazy. Lots of people don't even know their father. Lots of people know their father. What is the point of that? It has nothing to do with the story. Stay on topic, goddammit. Okay, it's a money grab for the parents. Money grab? What money grab? You mean to tell me the money grab what? Are y'all Jesus? Are you saying that parents who get money from tragedy are grabbing money grabbers like Austin Metcalf's parents? Are you saying that they're money grabbers too? You're a degenerate to come in here and say Austin Metcalf's parents are money grifters. You and Nolan's parents are money grifters. You're a degenerate. Okay. Roland didn't drown. I heard twice that he was unrecognizable. Someone put it. That may be the truth. That may be truth. I heard that stuff too, but we don't know. We're waiting for the autopsy. Not enough water in the lungs to be a drowning. That's my whole point. Maybe there's not enough water in the lungs to be a drowning. If it's not a drowning, that means he died before he went into the water, right? Okay. There are recordings where you can hear Nolan very upset telling me, no, that wasn't Nolan. That was Nolan's friend. His friend got on TV yesterday or day before, and he said that was me arguing with them about my phone. He said that was him. He said that wasn't Nolan. That was him arguing about the phone. Okay. Watermelon Felon Channel. Watermelon Felon Channel. Do y'all hear this shit? Far from ever having a felon, retard, Save America 8416. 8416, retard. Far from having a felon. Okay, the kid got himself killed. You're a bigot, lady. Of course. How did he get himself killed, retard? How did he get himself killed? And I'm saying that again to the Save America retard. Okay, let's see. No, you're on the fair. Okay, what else? Austin was murdered by a thug. Yeah, he wasn't a thug. That's the problem. You think of people as thugs, but they're not thugs. He wasn't a thug. Carmelo Anthony wasn't a thug. He was a regular, ordinary individual who made a fatal choice, just like Austin Metcalf made a fatal choice. Chump and Sharpton are race hustlers. Of course, race hustlers. Of course, you would say that. Seeing as how you don't understand why they were there. If you don't understand why they were there, then they're race hustlers. Of course they are. Okay. Al Sharpton is a shitbag as a crime. Of course, yeah. Anything to do with race, anything that makes you face the fact that you're a racist, we're race baiters. We're race hustlers. Of course. And I ain't even gonna say it, but that person in the White House is a race hustler too. But hey, that's just my thought. Let me see. Jeff Metcalf is profiting off Austin. Jeff Metcalf is profiting. Of course, he's profiting off of Austin's death. What's the name that Save America said he's a grifter. He's a money grifter. He said families who collect money from tragedies are grifters, and Jeff Metcalf is a grifter, according to him. That's what he said. Okay, got what they asked for. Okay, got his son stripped poker. Oh well, Austin bled out. Of course, he was drunk and couldn't swim. Of course, Nolan Wells knew how to swim. He was an excellent swimmer. According to his mother, according to other people, he was an excellent swimmer. So it wasn't a matter of him not being able to swim. So stop it. Okay? Stop it. Austin Daddy is there for the cash, and you know it. Hey, I don't know. I don't watch TV. Okay. Well, Carmelo is selling his ass to black cons for a bag of zaps. Well, that makes sense. You would understand selling your ass. I bet you would. Okay, this is what happened when you uneducated pay attention for. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you uneducated people need to pay attention. You definitely need to pay attention because Fubar's come on somebody's channel and talk crazy with his low IQ. Shut your ass up. Mississippi has 2 almost all black football teams representing them. Of course they do. We have great athleticism. Ain't nobody playing with these inbred white people. That's wild. Say that. Don't say that. Keep up the great work, my fellow white people. Another one bites the dust. You see Boris Avis, you wild. And yet we're the most violent race. And we got this goofy up here saying this. You know what? Y'all can go spam him and then report him. Yeah, report this person right here. That's his name. He's on here promoting death. So you need to report him. Please do that. Let me see. What else we got? I'm ignorant. Wow. Anyone white boy come my way, encourage it. Oh, of course. And it would not be so many lies. Of course. This will keep happening and there's nothing you can do about it. Of course, there's nothing we can do about it. Of course. I don't run around trying to save every person. We just have to be aware. They just have to be aware of people who want to take their life. That's all. So, you're an idiot and so is an Anton Boner Dickerson. I have no idea what you mean. Just goofy. White people are America's most gay terrorist. Shut up. It will be judged by Jesus Christ. All you got to say, of course. All white people can do is sneak attack. Of course. Cowards, hoes like their mama and their daddy. Oh, okay. Antoine wishes he was Carmelo getting reamed by some skinhead. It don't matter if you get God himself. It will make no difference. Okay. You people will never believe. When they freed the slaves, they should round you all up and took you back. Yeah, maybe that would have been it. Hey, Rainbow Kid, this goofy people in the chat. But it's okay. Old talking points. Of course, it's old talking points. Of course. Crump is there to turn into a racial issue. No, it's already a racial issue. It's not a matter of turning it into one. It's a matter of already being one. You just have to know how to navigate these things. My white people are doing a great job eliminating these YN. No, y'all ain't doing no great job now. Y'all ain't doing no great job. According to y'all, us black people are hunting y'all down. Just goofy logic. Y'all hear the goofy logic from Boris Avis? Just goofy logic. Some of these people are so low IQ. I can't do it. Doesn't Snapchat delete? Yes, Snapchat deletes itself after 24 hours, but his Snapchats were deleted before the 24 hours. Okay, according to the mom. Isn't that why it's called Snapchat? I don't know. I ain't never used Snapchat. I don't even know what that looks like. I heard of it, but I ain't never used it, so I don't know. It's like so many overdose cases at Fred Price. Why would he overdose when he was going for tryouts on Monday morning? He was going for tryouts for something Monday morning. Why would he take some drugs and get himself in trouble? That don't make sense. So why are you blaming the white people? I'm not blaming any white people. I'm blaming whatever the circumstances call. Nobody said anything about blaming white people. Y'all hear what y'all want to hear. Austin dead and can't breathe. Crump injected himself. The parents came and went and got Crump. Okay, stop worrying about why Crump is where he is. Don't be a hater and don't be jealous. I already explained why Crump was in the picture. You act like you don't understand. Jeff Metcalf's father is a race hustler. Maybe he is. I don't know. Maybe he is. He didn't get any money. If he got drunk and drowned, how he get into the water? Hey, maybe he walked into the water. Who knows? But then he wasn't there the day before. But then he was there the day after. That's wild. Civil rights attorney. They hired the civil rights attorney to make sure everything was an investigative team was put together so that he would make sure that those parents' rights were taken care of. And if you live in Mississippi, then you understand that black and brown bodies have been getting hung and killed and drowned, and they have been called suicide, nothing to see here, accidental drowning. That's why. And the family didn't want that for their child. That's why they hired Ben Crump. People are mean on YouTube. Hey, I got skin like an alligator. I don't give a shit. And Austin got took out. By all means, jump to conclusion. Nobody's jumping to conclusions. I'm willing to wait for the answers. I'm not willing to say anything about who did what. Like I said, maybe there's a bridge between what they did and what they didn't do and how the person died. It could be any number of things. Who knows? Any number of things. Why are you so emotional behind that? I'm emotional behind this because a person died. That's why I'm emotional behind this. That don't even make sense. Carmelo, the murderer. Carmelo killed someone. He didn't murder anybody. He killed someone. There's a big difference. While Chud is just giving his ass. How was Nolan in the water? No one else. Hey, these are questions that need to be asked. I have a lot of questions. So it is what it is. Don't wake up every day full of hate and bitterness. I don't wake up every day with hate and bitterness. I wake up every day being very hopeful. Very hopeful. I'm blaming those disgusting white people. Jesus. Coward white man. Y'all some hoe. Okay. He murdered. I said he killed someone. He didn't murder someone. Murder is that you intended for them to lose their life before you even got to them. He killed someone. There's a big difference. Gonzalez, stay you inbred Mexican pervert ass. Oh, Lord. Whew. You're crying for the dozens killed in Chicago. Whatever. So if you appreciate my commentary on this content, please hit the like, share, and subscribe. Everybody knows about YouTube. And I ask for the like, shares, and subscribe. Hates, likes, whatever. But I will see you guys in the next video. I appreciate you showing up, and I will see you guys in the next video. I appreciate you.